Imagine waking up from a 30-year coma and discovering that your past holds a shocking secret. In a world where everything has changed, a woman embarks on a journey of rediscovery, revealing her darkest moments. Discover the counterintuitive truth of how losing everything can be the key to unexpected revelations. Welcome, enjoy, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
I woke up with a start, feeling the cool, crisp air of the hospital fill my lungs. I blinked several times, trying to focus my vision on my surroundings. The bright ceiling lights made me feel like I was in a tunnel, one I never wished to enter. I looked around, seeking answers in the white walls that surrounded me. The overwhelming smell of disinfectant and the silence, only interrupted by the sound of the heart monitor, filled me with a strange sense of unease. "Where am I?" I murmured, feeling my lips dry and cracked. Just then, a nurse appeared at the door. Her smile was warm, but her eyes reflected unmistakable concern. "Hello, Emily. I'm Nurse Clara. You're in the hospital. You've woken up after a long time," she said, approaching the bed. "A long time? How long?" I asked, my voice trembling with each word. 30 years, Emily. You were in a coma," she explained gently. Upon hearing those words, the world around me faded. 30 years. 30 years of my life, lost in a dream from which I had awakened in a world I no longer recognized. "My parents, where are they?" I stammered, feeling a lump in my throat. The nurse paused, and her expression changed. "I'm so sorry, Emily. Your parents passed away a few years ago. A tragic accident," she said, her voice soft as a whisper, but the weight of her words crushed me. I felt the air escape me. Loneliness engulfed me, as if a sea of sadness was swallowing me. "No, it can't be," I said, feeling tears well up in my eyes. "It can't be real. I know it's hard, but you have your cousin Claire. She'll be coming to see you soon. She'll support you in this new beginning," the nurse responded. And although her words were comforting, they couldn't erase the pain I felt in my chest. When Claire finally arrived, the hug she gave me was warm and familiar, like a coat in a storm. "Emily, I can't believe you're awake," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "Claire, what happened? Everything feels so strange," I said, my voice breaking. She sat on the edge of the bed, taking my hands in hers. "You've been in a coma since the night of your graduation. It was a horrible accident, and we've all been waiting for this moment. We've missed you so much," she explained, her voice full of emotion. "And my friends? What happened to them? And Jennifer?" I asked, feeling a chill run down my spine at the thought of my school rival. "Jennifer has made a life for herself. She's a successful businesswoman now," Claire replied, her tone a bit evasive. "But there's a lot to learn about the current world, Emily. Things have changed." After a while, Clara returned to take me to a recovery room. As we walked down the hallway, I felt overwhelmed. The walls were decorated with photos of smiling and colorful people, a gallery of life that contrasted with the darkness I had known. Everything was so different. The machines, the devices, even the faces of the doctors and nurses seemed taken from a science fiction movie. When I finally left the hospital, the sunlight hit my face. It was a bright day, but the warmth of the sun couldn't dispel the cold I felt in my heart. I looked around, trying to absorb the new world surrounding me. Cars sped by, and people walked with their heads down, focused on their phones. It was as if life hadn't waited for me. "Let's go home, Emily. I'll show you everything new," Claire said, guiding me to her car. As we traveled, the city unfolded before me like a canvas full of colors and sounds I had never imagined. The giant advertising screens lit up the streets, and the music from the cafes mixed with the laughter of people. But inside me, there was an echo of nostalgia, a longing for what I had lost. "How is it possible that everything has changed so much?" I asked, looking out the window, trying to find something familiar in the scene. "It's the future, Emily. 30 years is a long time. But the important thing is that you're here now," Claire replied. And although her words were full of hope, I couldn't help but feel the weight of my past. Upon arriving home, the place was different, but in its essence, I still felt the echo of my childhood. But crossing the door, the reality of loneliness hit me again. The photos on the walls, the memories of happy moments, were all reminders of what I had lost. Would you like to rest a bit? I can make you something to eat, Claire suggested, noticing my distress. Yes, I think I need a moment, I responded, feeling overwhelmed. I headed to the room that had been mine, where the furniture was covered in dust, as if time had stood still. Looking around, I saw the old camera that had been my father's. I took it in my hands, and a wave of memories hit me. Photography had always been my passion, a way to capture moments and tell stories. Holding the camera, I felt a spark inside me, a glimpse of my old self. Maybe this can help me reconnect with the world, I thought, with my father's voice resonating in my mind. Are you okay, Emily? Claire asked, interrupting my thoughts. Yes, just remembering, I replied with a slight smile. I want to go out and explore, maybe take some pictures. That sounds great. I can come with you, she said, her enthusiasm lighting up the room. I'd like that, I responded, feeling that perhaps there was a light at the end of this dark tunnel. The idea of rediscovering the world through my lens gave me purpose, a reason to move forward. As the day progressed, anxiety continued to lurk inside me, but there was also a small spark of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, this new beginning could become a rebirth. The sun shone brightly over the park, and the fresh morning air filled me with an energy I hadn't felt in years. Beside me, Claire smiled as we walked along the path covered in golden leaves. The sound of children playing and birds singing enveloped me in a sense of normalcy that felt strange. I had woken from a 30-year coma, and the world was full of colors and sounds I didn't remember. Yet, the shadow of my past still haunted my mind. Do you like the park? Claire asked, breaking the silence. It's beautiful, I replied, trying to smile. But my thoughts traveled elsewhere, to that fateful night when everything changed. The night of my graduation. Claire stopped and looked at me with a mix of tenderness and concern. She was my cousin, but at that moment, she felt more like my anchor in this new world. Do you want to talk about what happened? She asked softly. I shook my head. I wasn't ready to face the memories that dwelled deep within me, but there was something that tormented me. Jennifer. I had to see her, not just for me, but also to understand what had happened that night. Claire, I want to see Jennifer, I said suddenly, feeling the words spill out with a weight I couldn't ignore. Claire frowned, as if the idea made her uncomfortable. I'm not sure that's the best idea, she began to say, but I interrupted her. I need to do it. I need to understand. I can't move forward without knowing what happened. Claire sighed, clearly conflicted. Finally, she nodded. Okay, I'll support you in this, but promise me you won't let anger take over. I promise, I replied, though deep down, I knew emotions could overflow at any moment. The drive to Jennifer's house was silent. My thoughts were a whirlwind of confused memories and repressed emotions. The image of Jennifer, with her arrogant smile and defiant gaze, loomed in my mind. The rivalry we had in high school felt like a distant echo, yet it still hurt. Arriving at her house, my hands trembled. Claire rang the doorbell, and the sound resonated in my chest. The door opened, and there she was, more mature, but with the same sparkle in her eyes. Emily, Jennifer said, almost in a whisper, as if she couldn't believe I was standing in front of her. Hello, Jennifer, I replied, feeling the words stick in my throat. Come in, she said, stepping aside to let us enter. The interior of the house was elegant and modern, very different from what I remembered of her home. I felt out of place, like a specter from a past that no longer existed. Would you like something to drink? Jennifer asked as we sat on the couch. Water is fine, I said, trying to calm my nerves. Claire gave me an encouraging look before Jennifer returned with the glasses. When she sat in front of me, the silence became dense. Finally, I broke the tension. So much has happened, I began, my voice trembling. I can't believe I've woken up after so long. Jennifer nodded, her expression serious. Neither can I. I never thought you'd come back. I could see a flash of vulnerability in her eyes, something I had never noticed before. What happened that night, Jennifer? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She remained silent for a moment, as if evaluating my words. I don't know if I can explain it. It was an accident, she began, but I interrupted her. An accident? You know it wasn't just that. Jennifer sighed, and for a moment the resentment I had felt seemed to fade. We had so much at stake. The competition, the pressure, everything became too much. Her eyes filled with tears. I never wanted that to happen. Her sincerity surprised me. The rivalry I had felt wasn't just mine. She had also struggled with her own demons. "Why didn't you help me?" I asked, feeling my emotions overflow. "You could have done something." "I know, but I was trapped in my own insecurity. I didn't know how to be your friend," she admitted, her voice breaking. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The words we had exchanged over the years, filled with hostility, vanished into thin air. "Jennifer, I also have my faults. I wasn't the kindest person to you." My words came out softer than I expected. "No, you never were. But now, maybe we can leave that behind." Her gaze was intense, as if she were seeking my forgiveness. Maybe. I decided not to close the door completely. There was so much pain, but there was also an opportunity for healing. Claire, who had remained silent, decided to intervene. "How about we share some memories?" she proposed, trying to ease the tension. "Memories," I murmured, thinking of what our friendship had been before everything fell apart. "Memories," Jennifer repeated, smiling faintly. "I remember when we competed for first place in the science fair." "And you cheated?" I exclaimed, laughing despite my sadness. Jennifer laughed, and for a brief moment, the rivalry felt distant, almost unreal. "It wasn't cheating, it was strategy," she defended, with a mischievous smile that reminded me of the girl she had been. The conversation flowed, and each shared laugh seemed to lift a burden of resentment. But there was still a crucial question that needed to be addressed. "Jennifer, what happened that night? Why was I in the car?" My voice turned serious. She took a deep breath, and her expression turned somber. "We were arguing, you and I. And then, I don't know, I offered to drive you home, but I wasn't in my right mind." "You mean you were drunk?" I interrupted, feeling the anger rise again. "No!" she exclaimed, raising her hand. "I was just confused. Everything turned into chaos, and I didn't know how to handle it." "And that justified what happened?" I asked, my voice trembling. "No, of course not," she replied, her gaze fixed on me. "But I want you to know I never wanted you to get hurt." Tears began to flow down my cheeks, and I realized I was releasing a weight I had carried for years. "Jennifer, I don't know if I can forgive you, but I understand we all make mistakes." My words were sincere and painful. "I accept that, Emily. I just hope we can find a way to move forward, together." The air was charged with emotions, and at that moment, I knew a new chapter in our story had begun. I didn't know what the future would hold, but I was willing to try. As we left Jennifer's house, a sense of lightness filled my chest. I had taken a step towards healing, and although the road ahead would be difficult, I was no longer alone. Claire looked at me and smiled, and her support gave me the confidence I needed. "I'm proud of you," she said, hugging me. "Thank you, Claire. I don't know what I'd do without you." As we walked back to the park, the sun shone brightly, and although the past was still part of me, I felt the future opening before my eyes. The fresh morning air enveloped me like a warm embrace as I walked to the community center, a place I had heard mentioned but never had the chance to visit. Claire had suggested I enroll in a photography course, and although I initially hesitated, the desire to rediscover myself and find a voice in this new world pushed me to take that step. The idea of capturing moments, of freezing time with a simple photograph, resonated within me. Upon entering the building, my eyes met a large hall filled with people of different ages, each with a camera in hand. I felt a mix of nerves and excitement. It was a new place, a space where I could explore my creativity and, perhaps, find something of myself in the process. I approached the registration table and, after a brief exchange of words, received a small reflex camera that seemed so modern and complex. I looked at it with curiosity, as if it were an artifact from another world. "Is this your first time?" a soft voice asked beside me. It was a woman with curly hair and bright eyes who smiled warmly. "Yes, it's a bit overwhelming," I replied, feeling the insecurity take hold of me. "Don't worry, we're all here to learn. I'm Anna," she introduced herself, extending her hand. "Emily," I said, shaking her hand. Anna guided me to a group of chairs arranged in a circle. As we sat down, the instructor, a middle-aged man with a scruffy beard and a t-shirt of a classical music band, welcomed us. "Today we'll start with something basic: composition. Photography isn't just about capturing what we see, but how we see it. Every image tells a story," he explained, gesturing enthusiastically. As the course progressed, I immersed myself in the practice. I learned to play with light, to find interesting angles, and to look beyond the obvious. Each click of the shutter was like a heartbeat, each image a part of me beginning to be reborn. After a few hours, we went outside for a practical session. The sun shone brightly, and life in the park was vibrant. As I walked, I saw an elderly man feeding pigeons. My instinct led me to approach and capture him in his activity. I crouched, adjusted the lens, and took the photo. Seeing the image on the camera screen, I felt an instant connection. It was as if I had captured not just his figure, but his essence. "That was great!" Anna exclaimed, who had approached to look over my shoulder. "You have a good eye." "Thank you," I smiled, feeling the compliment ignite a spark of confidence in me. After the session, we returned to the classroom to review the photos. The group dynamic was surprisingly warm and welcoming. Everyone shared their images and the stories behind them. I realized that everyone, in some way, was seeking to express their emotions through photography. It was then that I decided I wanted to tell stories of resilience, stories of people who, like me, had faced adversity. The following week, I started going out with my camera through the community. I captured everything that caught my attention: a child smiling while playing, a woman selling flowers on the street corner, a young artist painting a mural. Each image was a reflection of life, of the struggle and hope of the people around me. On one of those outings, I met Anna again at a small cafe downtown. She was sitting at a table with a notebook, drawing. I approached, intrigued. "Do you draw?" I asked, pointing to her notebook. "Yes, it's a way to express myself. It helps me relax and find inspiration," she replied without looking up. "I'd love to see your drawings," I said, with a tone of genuine interest. "Sure, but only if you show me some of your photos too," she challenged, smiling. We spent the afternoon sharing our passions. Anna told me about her life as an artist, her struggles, and how creating had helped her overcome difficult moments. Her story resonated with me and, at the same time, inspired me to keep going. "Maybe you could do a series on personal overcoming. There are so many incredible stories out there," she suggested, taking a sip of her coffee. "That sounds perfect," I replied, feeling that Anna's words aligned with what I had started to feel in my heart. I decided my first story would be about a local artist who had lost everything in a fire and yet had found a way to rebuild her life through her art. I searched for her, and after a few days of research, I managed to arrange an interview with her. When I arrived at her studio, the atmosphere was welcoming, full of vibrant colors and textures. The artist, a woman with short, gray-streaked hair, greeted me with a warm smile. "Hello, Emily. I've heard a lot about you," she said, offering me tea. "Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'd love to hear your story," I replied, feeling nervous but excited. "Every scar tells a story," she said with a firm voice. "I'll tell you mine." As she recounted her experience, I realized that the struggle for resilience was a common thread that united people. Her passion for art had led her to heal and rebuild not only her life, but also her identity. "I believe your story deserves to be told," I told her, taking some notes. "And you have the talent to do it," she replied, with an encouraging look that filled me with strength. With each story I heard, my desire to capture those struggles and triumphs intensified. I decided I wanted to create a series of portraits reflecting the resilience and beauty of the people I had met. The idea of rebirth began to take shape in my mind. I wanted each photograph to speak for itself, for each image to tell a story of overcoming. I knew I had found my purpose, and with each click of my camera, I felt I was being reborn, like a phoenix rising from its ashes. The path wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face any challenge. What had started as a simple curiosity for photography had transformed into a burning passion, and with the support of Claire and my new friends, I felt I was finally finding my place in this world, one that had been absent for so long. "Let's create something beautiful," I murmured to myself, adjusting the camera to capture the golden light of the sunset. Life was full of stories waiting to be told, and I was ready to be their narrator. The night of the opening of my Rebirth exhibition was filled with a mix of nerves and excitement. With every step I took towards the gallery, the echo of my shoes resonated in my mind, as if each had its own heartbeat. The soft light of the lamps illuminated the walls where my photographs were hung, ready to tell stories that had remained silent for too long. "Are you ready, Em?" Claire, my cousin, asked as she adjusted the necklace she wore. Her gaze was a balm amidst my anxiety. "Ready as I'll ever be," I replied, though inside I felt a whirlwind of doubts. What if no one likes it? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you did it. You captured something real, something that deserves to be seen, she encouraged, giving me a gentle nudge toward the entrance. With a deep breath, I crossed the gallery's threshold. The air was filled with the aroma of red wine and canapes. People moved in groups, their laughter and murmurs filling the space, while some stopped to observe my photos. I shivered. How could my life, something so fragile and new, be part of this? "Emily, here you are," I heard a familiar voice. It was Jennifer, my old rival. Her presence in the gallery was both a relief and a challenge. "Your photographs are impressive." "Thank you," I replied, trying not to let the tension of the past interfere with the moment. "Do you like any in particular?" "I love the one of Anna," she said, pointing to an image that captured the essence of the artist in her workshop. "It feels so alive." I nodded, feeling her comment was a bridge to a deeper connection. "That was one of the first I made. Her story inspired me so much." Jennifer smiled, a genuine gesture I hadn't seen in a long time. "I'm glad you're finding your way, Em. I always knew you had talent." "Always?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. "I thought I was just a nuisance to you in school." "No, you weren't," she replied, her voice softer. "I was just trapped in my own insecurity. But that's another story." The conversation flowed in a way I never would have imagined. As people moved and admired my photographs, we began exchanging stories about our lives in recent years. We talked about lost dreams, the struggle for success, and the scars we carried as reminders of what we had overcome. "And how's your career going?" I asked, genuinely interested. "I've been working hard," she admitted, with a spark of pride in her eyes. "But sometimes I wonder if it's really worth it. The pressure can be overwhelming." "I understand," I replied, looking around the crowd. "But I think what matters is authenticity. At the end of the day, we all need to find what truly makes us happy." Jennifer nodded, and the silence that followed was comfortable, as if we had been sharing secrets for years. At that moment, Margaret's son, one of the women I had photographed, approached us. His face was marked by emotion, and I could see how his eyes lit up seeing his mother's image. "Are you Emily?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Yes, it's me. Do you like the photo of your mother?" I asked, feeling a lump in my throat. "It's beautiful," he said, as tears began to roll down his cheeks. "I've never seen an image that captured her essence this way. Thank you for doing this." A chill ran down my spine hearing his words. I had captured more than an image. I had captured memories, emotions, and life itself. "I just did what she allowed me to see," I replied, feeling the weight of gratitude in his gaze. The opening continued, and the gallery filled with laughter, chatter, and applause. Every time someone stopped in front of my photographs, my heart filled with pride and love for each story that had been told. The connection with those people, even in their absence, was palpable. "Emily, come here," Claire called, who had been speaking with a group of art critics. "I want to introduce you to someone." I approached, feeling a slight nervousness. "Who is it?" "This is Roberto, an art critic who has been following your work. He's very interested in talking to you about your photos," Claire explained, her face illuminated by a smile. "Hello, Emily," Roberto said, extending his hand. "I've been observing your trajectory, and I think you have exceptional talent. Your Rebirth series is powerful and moving." Thank you, I replied, feeling the blush on my cheeks. It's an honor to hear that from someone experienced in the field. I'd like you to consider the possibility of doing an exhibition in a city gallery, he continued, his gaze intense. I believe your work deserves to be seen by a broader audience. The words resonated in my mind like an echo, an opportunity I never would have imagined. That would be incredible, I said, though part of me feared the commitment it would entail. As the night progressed, the atmosphere was filled with enthusiasm and new connections. As I moved among the attendees, I observed Jennifer talking animatedly with a group of people. The image of the rivalry that had defined our youth seemed to fade into the air, replaced by something deeper, more human. Do you realize how far we've come? Claire commented beside me, observing Jennifer. It's amazing to see how things can change. Yes, it is, I replied, feeling warmth in my heart. Maybe, just maybe, this new path will lead us to a place where we can be friends. I hope so, Claire said, giving me a gentle nudge. But first, enjoy this moment. You've earned it. And so I did. Every smile, every word of encouragement, every tear of emotion shed in the gallery became part of my story. The night slipped gently to its end, but not without leaving me with a sense of fulfillment. At the end of the night, as people began to disperse, I stayed contemplating my photographs once more. Each image was a reminder of life, of struggle, of reunions, and of opportunities. I'm proud of you, Em, Claire said, hugging me tightly. This is just the beginning. Yes, I replied, feeling that despite the challenges and pain I had experienced, I was finally finding my place in the world. It's just the beginning. With a heart full of hope and a renewed spirit, I closed my eyes for a moment and let the emotion of the moment envelop me. I knew that although the road ahead might be uncertain, I was no longer alone. I had found the support of those around me, and above all, I had rediscovered my own voice through photography. My journey towards rebirth was just beginning. It was a bright day in New York. The city seemed to vibrate with life as I prepared for my first exhibition away from home. The invitation had come like a ray of light in the midst of a world that still felt strange and overwhelming. Emily, this is amazing, Claire would say as she fixed my hair in front of the mirror. Excitement bubbled in my chest, but I also felt a knot of anxiety. Would it be enough? Could I really connect with people through my photography? Remember, just be yourself, Claire advised with a reassuring smile. Your work speaks for you. I took a deep breath and headed to the gallery. Upon entering, the aroma of fresh art and the murmur of conversations filled the air. My photographs were hung on the white walls, each a testament to human resilience. I felt a tingling in my stomach, seeing how the images came to life in a new setting. As I walked among the attendees, I noticed a man standing in front of one of my photos. It was a fisherman, Miguel, who had shared his moving life story with me during my trip to the coast. It's impressive, isn't it? He said, turning to me with a smile. You captured the soul of each person. Thank you, Miguel. Your story inspired me more than you can imagine, I replied, feeling the words were insufficient to express my gratitude. He nodded, his eyes full of understanding. Sometimes, life throws us challenges that seem insurmountable, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I can't believe I've come this far, I murmured, looking around. It all seems like a dream. Then make it a reality, he said with determination. The stories you tell are powerful. Never underestimate their impact. As the night progressed, more people approached me, admiring my work. Each compliment was a boost of confidence, a validation that despite my fears, I had achieved something significant. But among the smiles and conversations, I felt a shadow looming over me. The story of my past was still there, latent, waiting for the right moment to come to light. My mind wandered to Jennifer. I had seen her at the opening, standing on the other side of the room, chatting animatedly with a group of art critics. It was amazing how time had changed our lives, how from rivals we had become allies on this path of rediscovery. But there was still so much to resolve between us. The night continued with laughter and toasts. I felt as if I were floating in a bubble, away from the worries that once besieged me. Until, suddenly, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Emily, I can't believe you're here in New York, and with such an impressive exhibition," Jennifer said, approaching with a genuine smile. "Thank you, Jennifer. It's been an incredible journey," I replied, feeling a lump in my throat. The sincerity in her eyes was a relief after so many years of rivalry. "Would you like to see some of the stories behind the photos?" "Sure, I'd love to," she said, her expression turning serious. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened between us." "Me too," I admitted, my voice a whisper. "It's hard to leave the past behind, especially with what happened that night." Jennifer nodded, her gaze lost in one of the photographs from the series. "I know. It's been a weight I've carried for years. I want you to know that I deeply regret what happened. It was never my intention for things to end that way." The sincerity of her confession surprised me. "Thank you for saying that. I think we've both carried our stories." As we talked, the connection between us felt stronger. I could see how time had shaped Jennifer, just as it had shaped me. We had lost each other for 3 decades, but here we were, willing to find a path to reconciliation. Suddenly, a woman approached us, clearly excited. "It's an honor to meet you. I've followed your stories and they've inspired me to pursue my own dreams," she said, looking at both of us. "Thank you. That means a lot," I replied, feeling a wave of warmth in my chest. The woman continued talking, sharing how our stories had motivated her in her own life. As I listened, I realized that every photograph I had taken not only told the story of the subjects, but also resonated in the lives of those who saw them. The night continued, full of moments of joy and reflection. In the end, when most of the attendees had left, I found Miguel again, who was helping dismantle the exhibition. "How do you feel now?" he asked with a smile. "Free," I replied, feeling that every word was true. "It's like I can finally let go of the weight of the past." That's what photography can do. It allows us to see beyond what's in front of us and find beauty in our stories, he said, helping me gather some of my things. "Yes, and now I have a new project in mind," I revealed, feeling inspired. "I want to create a book titled Faces of Resilience, where I'll gather the stories of all the people I've photographed. I want the world to know that there's always hope, even in the darkest moments." Miguel smiled, his gaze full of admiration. "That's a wonderful idea. I'm sure it will impact many more people." Returning home, the train ride was a mix of fatigue and excitement. I looked out the window, watching the city fade behind me, feeling I had changed forever. Not just because of the exhibition's success, but because of the connections I had made, the courage I was beginning to find in myself. When I finally arrived home, the calm of the place enveloped me. Claire was sitting in the living room, waiting with a cup of tea in hand. "How did it go?" she asked, her face lit up by a smile. "It was magical," I replied, feeling the words weren't enough to describe it. "I met so many wonderful people and realized that my story, our story, still has much to tell." "I'm so proud of you," Claire said, wrapping me in a hug. "This is just the beginning, Emily. You have a bright future ahead." As I settled on the couch, with the warmth of her embrace still present, I knew I was ready to face whatever came. Life, with its ups and downs, had taught me that every challenge was an opportunity to grow. And now, with my camera in hand and a heart full of stories, I was ready to document the resilience of life. The night of the Faces of Resilience launch arrived with palpable energy in the air. The venue was decorated with warm lights dancing on the walls, creating a cozy and festive atmosphere. The gallery, filled with people, breathed enthusiasm. Friends, family, and colleagues gathered to celebrate my journey, my rebirth. As I prepared, a whirlwind of emotions overwhelmed me. Anxiety and excitement intertwined, and I couldn't help but remember the moments that had brought me here. "Claire, what would I do without you?" I asked, looking at her as she adjusted her dress. "I'm so nervous." "Emily, you're ready for this. This is your night," she said with an encouraging smile. Her eyes shone with pride, and at that moment, I felt her confidence in me gave me the strength I needed. "What if no one likes it? What if everyone thinks I'm not ready?" I asked, feeling as if insecurity was taking over me. I had worked hard on this project, but the possibility of it failing terrified me. Listen, what you've done is incredible. You've captured stories of life, of struggle. That's what matters. It's not about perfection, but about the connection you've created, Claire replied, squeezing my hand affectionately. I nodded, trying to absorb her words. As I headed to the center of the gallery, I could see people admiring my photographs. Each image told a story, a fragment of someone's life who had shared their struggle with me. The Rebirth series was a testament to human resilience, and I was there to be its voice. Suddenly, I saw Jennifer among the crowd. Her presence surprised me. We had our differences, but now she was here, supporting me. I approached her, feeling a knot in my stomach. "Thank you for coming," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course, Emily. I couldn't miss this. I'm very proud of you," she replied, her sincerity resonating in my ears. There was something in her tone that made me feel our old rivalries were beginning to fade. The night progressed, and when it was time to make my speech, the air became dense with anticipation. With the microphone in hand, I looked at the crowd, feeling my heart pounding. I'm not here just to present a book. I'm here to honor the stories of those who have struggled and found their way, I began, feeling every word resonated within me. Each person I've photographed has taught me something invaluable about life. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, there's always light. I want to thank each of you for being part of this journey, I continued, observing how the faces in the crowd smiled and nodded, a clear sign of empathy. At the end of my speech, the room erupted in applause. I felt overwhelmed. A mix of joy and relief flooded my being. Jennifer approached after my speech, her eyes reflecting an internal struggle. "Emily, there's something I need to tell you," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "What's wrong?" I asked, feeling the atmosphere turn more serious. "I've been dealing with a lot of demons since that night. I've always felt I had a part in what happened, and I've been working on it. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know I regret everything that happened," she confessed. Her sincerity took me by surprise. "Jennifer, I don't know if I can forgive you immediately, but I appreciate you saying it. We've all changed and carry our own battles," I replied, feeling a mix of compassion and confusion. Before they could continue, a man approached us. He had an expression of excitement on his face. "Excuse me, but I need to say something," he interrupted, his voice a bit choked. "I'm Margaret's son, the woman in the photograph with the flower portrait. She always talked about her life and struggles, and seeing her essence captured here it's a gift to me. Thank you for this," he said, his eyes wet as he looked at his mother's image. A wave of emotions washed over me. "Thank you for sharing her story with me. She's an inspiration," I replied, feeling that every photograph had managed to unite lives and memories. The night continued, and as the music played softly in the background, conversation flowed between laughter and shared memories. The atmosphere felt light, as if everyone present was willing to leave the past behind. It was at that moment that I understood how much my life had changed. Photography had not only been a form of expression, but a way to heal old wounds. However, the conversation took a different turn when an old friend from high school approached and mentioned something that left me cold. "Emily, did anyone ever tell you the truth about the night of the accident?" he asked, his tone turning grave. My heart stopped. "What do you mean?" I responded, feeling the air grow dense. "There were always rumors that it wasn't a simple accident. Some said someone had manipulated the situation," he said, looking around as if fearing being overheard. "What are you insinuating?" I asked, incredulity mixed with fear beginning to surface. "Just that there's more to the story than you think. Sometimes things aren't what they seem," he concluded, leaving me with more questions than answers. As the night progressed, I felt a growing unease. The revelation was like an echo in my mind, resonating with doubts and fears. I looked at Jennifer, who seemed to have heard the conversation. "Do you have any idea what he was insinuating?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know, but if there's something more, we should find out together," she said, her gaze determined. At that moment, we joined forces on unexpected ground, ready to face what the past had left us. As the event came to an end, I felt full of gratitude for the people around me, but also aware that the path to healing was more complex than I had imagined. I had managed to reconcile with my past and find a new purpose, but now I had to face the shadows that still remained. "This isn't over, is it?" I said to Jennifer as we walked away from the gallery, the dark night full of mysteries before us. "No, but together we can face it," she replied, and for the first time I felt that maybe, just maybe, we could find the peace we so desperately sought. I really hope you enjoyed the story. Please leave a comment with your views. I'm sure there will be new videos on this channel that will thrill you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss our next videos. Until next time.